That looks perfect. I like it. I like it. Yeah.
So that's Notepad. There's a lot of folks out there that love writing their entire application in Notepad. Great.
Go get them.
Yeah, go get them.
Bring back VI. You know it makes sense.
There we go. But there's lots of other tools, and throughout the course, we're going to be introducing you to a few different tools to use. All right, let's bring back up our slide here. We want to move on to some specifics that you need to know for the exam.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
First thing is understand how to display text and the various tags that you're going to be using to do that. Here's a table. Great little table. We do want to point out, not inclusive though, right, Christopher?
Right, yeah, there's dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of HTML tags that are available. And yeah, for us to go through every last one of them, we'd be here for about 3 days, and I'm pretty sure everybody would be bored by the end of that.
But this will get our audience started.
Yeah, these are the big ones.
Yeah, you may need to know more for the exam, but let's just get started. Hey, we're halfway there, right? Because we've already looked at, we know what H1 is.
Yep.
We've also looked at paragraph. We've looked at title.
Yep.
There's a H2. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
We've got H1, we've got H2.
Yep.
So just like in Word, where you can do a hierarchical type of heading structure, you can also do that on your page.
Yeah.
So you could have H1, H2, and H3, so on.
All the way down to H6.
Yeah.
Yep.
There we go. The other thing to note is we've got some tags here to help differentiate our text on the page. Let's look at a few. We've got the bold and italics. Those have been around for quite some time.
Exactly.
We've got some new ones in HTML5. Got the M and the strong.
Right.
All of those help us in some way differentiate text on our page.
Exactly.
But there's a time to use either or, right?
Yep.
And we need to talk about that. Candidates need to know that for the test.
Exactly.
We're going to actually do some demos to walk you through that. I think that's the best way to actually experience that.
Yeah, actually see the strong and the emphasis. Yep.
Yeah. And then the last tag here on our slide is the footer. And we'll actually look at an example of the footer. That's an example of a semantic tag. So that's to come later. We'll talk about that.
Yep.
Let's jump right into a demo.
Yeah, let's do it. And because really, I mean, we could put that table back up there and we could keep talking to the table, but it doesn't really mean anything unless you see it. So let's actually get in and do a demo here. I love it.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, we've done a demo in Notepad. Now we're going to take it a step further. We're going to introduce you to another tool. It's called Web Matrix. Great little free
operative
tool.
word being here, free.
Yes, free tool from Microsoft, and it's downloadable. Now, I want to point out that you can use your favorite development environment, and there are many. Christopher, what's your favorite?
Visual Studio, but yeah, I mean, I'm a Microsoft guy, but even before I joined Microsoft, it was always Visual Studio.
Yep. There's a couple of versions of Visual Studio. The version that you go out and purchase. Also a Visual Studio Express that you can download for free, as well as this Web Matrix. And we'll give you some links later on in the course of where to go get all of those tools. But the point here is that you can work in any development environment you want during this course, or know for the test, you're not going to be tested on the development environment itself.
Exactly, yeah. So if you're using another tool, if you are using Notepad, that's just fine for this exam. You're not going to see questions on Web Matrix or Visual Studio or anything like that. That it really is specific to HTML5, CSS, JavaScript. Regardless of the environment that you're developing in.
Let's go ahead and link out, though, to Web Matrix, because I want to introduce you to the location that you're going to go.
There we go.
To. Go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit, so get you that URL there. There it is. That's where you can go if you're interested in downloading this. And it really, if you haven't played with it, it's a cool little tool.
Yeah.
It's great for beginning development, but it's got some cool tools that not even the big guys have, the big development tools. So I highly recommend you go ahead and take a minute, pause the video, and do a free download of that. I'll go ahead and move on, though, assuming that you guys have paused the video and done that, and start.
Well, they'd have to start it back up again to hear us.
All right, we'll go ahead and start a new application. We've got a couple of choices. Being the lazy developer that I am, Christopher, I'm not going to do an empty site. I'll go ahead and do a template gallery.
Okay, all right. Yep.
I'll take any amount of code I can get.
Absolutely, yeah.
What I want to point out is you can actually create lots of different types of web applications using this tool. You can do your traditional ASP.NET. It even has support for PHP, Node.js. But we are specifically, we're specifically interested in HTML, so we're going to choose that option. Choose an empty site. We will give it a name of My Demo.
Perfect.
And hit next.
I use those exact same very creative names. Demo, something,
I'm a developer. I don't have that
after a while, yeah.
All right, it opens up and it's got a couple of defaults. One is our default index page, and hey, look at that. It's written a little bit of standard code for me. I'll take it.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and add a title here. This is a demo. See, there I go with my
absolutely.
Again.
Yep.
And I'll add a header. Now, you notice what's nice about this development environment, right, is it's going to help fill in some things. That's going to add the end tag for me. And by the way, if you don't like that feature, you can go up to File, Options, and change that. But I kind of like it. Again, I like any little bit of code that I can get. This is a main header. And I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that hierarchical type of heading.
Okay.
So let's add an H2.
I like it.
A little bit of information in the body, a paragraph.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's be correct here. Hopefully Mrs. Benson, my second grade spelling teacher, isn't watching.
True story, I actually failed typing in high school.
Oh.
Don't tell anybody. Yeah, true story. I got better.
Well, I'm afraid you just told the whole world about that.
Dang it. Wait, you mean this is being recorded?
Yes.
Ah, now they tell me. That explains these cameras.
Yeah. Real thing, Christopher. All right, here we go. We've got an H1, we've got an H2, we've got a little bit of information in our paragraph. We're going to come up in the right-hand corner and choose to run.
Okay.
And notice I've got a couple of browsers loaded, so I can actually test this in a variety of different browsers, which is, of course, what you are going to want to be doing when you're doing your development. That's important. We'll go ahead and use Internet Explorer. And there, voila. Okay, I've got my title. I've got a main heading, and now you can see the hierarchical fashion of the secondary heading. A little bit of text. Those that pass this exam are the creme de la creme of their class, right?
Absolutely.
So, creme de la creme, it is a foreign word and a body of English text. And so to be semantically correct, we probably need to differentiate that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Let's use a tag to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
The correct tag to use is the infamous Italics, which has been around for quite some time.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to click and drag and position this
in
between. Right. And so now that's going to be in italics. Let's take this a step further, though. Let's demonstrate a couple more of these tags to help us differentiate and talk about the difference.
Go for it.
We want to show some strong emphasis to something, like call for help now.
Okay.
Again, there's my,
absolutely.
uniqueness.
So
not very creative there, but call for help. Now. Up. All right, so let's see what I did here. I forgot my strong. That's what we're going to use, the strong tag, to demonstrate that. Move this over here.
One of the nice things that WebMatrix and a lot of other tools will do is automatically close tags for you, which can be very helpful as you're typing everything out, rather than always having to close it on your own.
That's right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put a little break here as well.
Yep. So BR is a line break, and that's just simply going to be new line. Yep.
Great. And there we go. So now we can see a little bit of difference in how we can differentiate text. We notice we've put the italics here, and then this is in bold by using the strong.
Yep.
We had a bold, right?
We do have a bold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the difference of when you would use strong and when you would use bold.
Okay.
Let's actually just demonstrate that. What would happen if I change this to bold?
Only one way to find out. Yep.
hey, it looks the same.
Looks the exact same.
But it's not the right one to use in this case.
No, it's not.
But you notice, HTML5 police didn't run in and get us, right, because we used the wrong tag.
Yep.
But for the exam, you should be comfortable in knowing which tag to use in the right time.
Right. And I was just going to say that the difference between that strong and bold, that you'll notice the display is the same, but bold specifically means display this as bold. But strong is describing a little bit of what's going on there. All the strong and emphasis in turn are doing is just simply saying, hey, this text is important. And so it gives a little bit more flexibility to browsers, and in particular gives a bit more flexibility to search engines and screen readers to be able to better highlight that text.
Exactly. So even though it doesn't look anything different visually to us, it certainly helps to make your application more accessible. And it helps us as developers, those that come after you, to read your code and to figure out what's going on there. Just to emphasize a little bit.
Emphasize. I see what you did there.
No pun intended. With what Christopher said. Let's give an example of when you might want to use bold. We use strong to show strong emphasis in something. Bold might be used if you want to set something apart differently stylistically on your page, but not necessarily really to show emphasis. So an example of that, you might be telling a story. Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs. And you want to stylistically emphasize once upon a time to start off that paragraph. That would be an example of appropriate time to use bold over strong.
Right, because those particular words aren't really that much more important. You're just simply looking to kind of lead into the paragraph with a little bit more punch, a little bit more panache, as it were.
Okay, very good. So we've got a little example. We've demonstrated the hierarchical nature of the headings. We know now a little bit about some of those tags to help us differentiate wording. And be sure on the test to understand when is the most appropriate time to use those. All right.
And so now, how about we kind of take a look at a couple of other tags as well, like a little bit more advanced, because obviously the web isn't just text anymore. So how about taking a look at maybe creating some pictures or displaying some media or something like that?
All right, let's do that. Let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about displaying graphics first.
Yeah, let's do it.
Displaying graphics. Basically, you've got 2 tags to choose from. You've got the traditional SVG, right, Christopher? And then now this new canvas element to work with the canvas object. And for the exam, you need to have a basic understanding of when is the most appropriate time to use either or.
Right.
And I think the best way to prepare for that is just have an understanding of what those words mean.
Exactly, yeah.
So let's talk about that. SVG.
SVG, sure. So SVG is scalar vector graphics, and the whole design here is that declaratively or through the markup, you're going to describe this is what I want. So you'll notice there on the page that it's rectangle with a height of 100 and a width of 100. So you're specifically saying that inside of that little spot, I want a rectangle that's going to be 100 by 100, which would actually wind up as a square. But as we all remember from geometry class, all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. At least I think I remember that from geometry. But yeah, so you're declaring this is what I'm going to want. And I'd also mention just real quickly here that it's a vector graphic, so that as it scales up or scales down, it's still going to maintain that clarity, because what you're doing is you're saying, I just want to draw this line. So rather than like a JPEG, which is really a bitmap at the end of the day, which is I want this bit to be, this little pixel to be red, and this little pixel to be blue, and this little pixel to be red. When you scale that bigger and scale that smaller, that's when you start to get that little bit of fuzziness. Vector graphics don't do that, because what you're doing is you're saying draw a line from here to here. Well, if you're scaling that down, well, now you're just going to say draw a line here to here, or if you're scaling that up, it's going to be draw a line from here to here. So it's a much better way to draw out your graphics as well.
Good point. So in other words, if I needed to allow my users during runtime to enlarge a particular graphic, you're saying that SVG might be a more logical choice.
Yeah. So as people resize their browsers, it's going to be a better graphic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about the canvas object, though, the new object, it does give us a lot of ability now to really interact at runtime with
Yes.
graphics.
Yeah.
You're right. It's Vaster based, right?
Yep.
So if you have to do a lot of scaling up, it may not be the best choice, but really allows you to get in there and do some animations and some fun things. And we're actually going to be doing some demos later. But for now, just understand there's 2 basic tags. Be comfortable with knowing when to choose either tag. We've got a reference here for you to explore a little bit further on that topic. And by the way,